I'm Jeremy Bowen with Varsity Franchising. I'm a franchise consultant. Today, let's talk about what existing franchisees didn't know before they got into the business, and they wish they did. So we'll start with, what does a struggling franchise look like, and what does corporate do about it? So a lot of times, a struggling franchise, or when you're going to buy your franchise, you're going to talk about the top 25%. Sometimes you're talking about the top 50%. What we want to talk about is, what is the bottom 25%? And let's be honest, every franchise is going to have a bottom 25%. And so when we start talking about that, the question is what makes somebody the bottom 20 or 25%? So the first thing is, did they follow the model? A lot of times what you'll find is when you start looking at the bottom percentage on the franchises, those franchises are doing their own thing, or they're trying to do something different than what the model is. The other thing is, are they putting the time in? And yeah, a lot of times it's, oh, somebody bought a franchise, thought it was going to run themselves, didn't realize that, hey, I'm leaving my corporate job and I'm going to go over here and work 20 hours a week. It's like, yeah, you can work 20 hours a week, but you have to have somebody in the business running the business every day. It just may have to be somebody else. You may have to hire a manager or do something else. These are a lot of different ways that people end up in that bottom 25%. Now, sometimes it's no fault of their own. Maybe the territory seemed viable, but it was kind of borderline. And all of a sudden, the opportunity is just not what it used to be. And at that point, a good corporate franchisor will be reaching out to you constantly. They'll be making sure, are you doing the right things? Are you getting the right return on your marketing investment? Are you doing the right marketing day to day? Are you going out? Are you building it? And sometimes they'll send somebody out. A lot of times, if you have a good, reputable franchisor, they're going to send somebody out to your territory to try to help you fix it. And if it's something beyond what you can deal with, then they're going to try to come up with solutions. Maybe they expand your territory a little bit. Maybe they do whatever it may be to try to get that territory to perform. I can tell you right now that a franchisor, 100%, does not ever want to have a failed franchise. They will do whatever it takes to make sure that all of their franchises are succeeding. They can't sell more franchises or more territories with failed franchises. It has to be a model that works. So the second thing is what does that first year look like? What does it look like to start a business for somebody who's never started a business? The answer sucks. I mean, not all the time, but some of the time for sure. There's going to be those days where something goes sideways, something goes wrong. You're not prepared for it. Hey, I bought my franchise. Day one was that day. I walked in the office. I was the first one there. Guess what? I expected to be the first one there. About 10 o'clock, I was still the only one there. And I'm sitting here going, I just bought a franchise that has a staff. So about 10:30, I called the previous franchise owner and I said, hey, nobody's here. Is there something I should know? And he goes, oh, I forgot to tell you. I gave the entire staff the week off for vacation. Nobody told me. I'm sitting here trying to figure it out. I'm running a shipping business and I had no idea how to do a BOL. I have no idea which freight carriers to use. I'm having to call somebody else, have them try to help me through it. I guarantee you half the invoices or half the shipments that went out that week never got invoiced because I had no clue what I was doing. But all of that could have been avoided with good communication. But the key thing is, hey, what does that first week look like? What does that first year look like? Hey, it was trial by fire for me. A big part of that first year is understanding cash flow, understanding how much money needs to stay into the business to keep it operating, and to understand how much everybody's got to get paid, what kind of investments you need to make, and how you're going to grow and scale. And you want to keep track of how close you're getting. You want your projections to break even. You want your projections out there to pay back, and you want to make sure that you're on track. You also want to make sure those are realistic, because a lot of times, yes, you might be able to make enough money to be able to do a payback within the first 2 years. The question is that the smartest move of your money? If you have a low interest loan, maybe it's better that you pay it back over time and you use that money to reinvest into the business and maybe put more money into marketing or more money into sales or more money into another truck or another service level. So there's lots of different ways to look at that. The key thing is to have a plan, keep the franchisor involved in your plan, and make sure that they can tell you, number one, that it's realistic, but number two, They can help you figure out some of the better ways to build your business so that you can grow quickly and you can really take advantage of the opportunity that you're trying to build. So one of the other things is talk about territories. And so I talk about my clients, I talk to them about territories and scale. And I personally go out there and I talk with every franchise that I'm going to recommend, and we talk about the territory. And so a great example is I had a client that I was working with. They were looking for something that was gun related. And best thing we could come up with was, okay, well, what if we did estate sales? Probably I explained to his wife, I said, okay, you brought this up, so I'm just going to mention this. He loves guns. If he goes into an estate sale and the guy's got 60 guns and they're all high priced, serial number guns, and everything is very pristine, and he wants to buy all 60 of them, is this the kind of situation you really want to put him in? He comes home and he goes, yeah, I got every gun at the sale. So we started looking at those at the estate sales. So the first franchise that I would have put him in that I thought was a good fit in his territory is already sold. I said, okay, no big deal. There was a second. I actually had 4 of them that I liked, and I ranked them out the way that I liked them. And I liked them for different reasons. So it wasn't like the 4th one was the 4th best one. It was just different. So the second one, I go out there and I look at it, and guess what? Sold in his territory. 3rd one, sold in his territory. 4th one available. And then I said, okay, well, this territory is only 250,000 people. Let's see how many mom and pops are out there. 200 mom and pops. 200 mom and pops. So now you're talking about your competition is 3 built-out franchises that have the technology, have economies of scale. They're doing scan guns. They're doing credit cards. They're doing all this kind of stuff that the mom and pops can't necessarily do. But guess what? Those mom and pops have relationships. Their great-great-grandparents may have lived in the same county. And so we know there's some advantage. Otherwise, they'd be out of business. And now we're talking about putting a 4th major franchise in there. And so when we started talking about it, we said, you know what? When we start talking about territory, it's not that this isn't a great territory. It's just not a great territory for this particular business at this particular time. So when we talk about territories, we like to look at them in that perspective. Another way that I like to look at them is I like to look at these territories about, hey, what is it going to look like when you scale? Are you going to be able to build out? And all territories are not created equal. Sometimes you end up with I've got a territory in Middle Georgia right now. Lovely territory, 250,000 people. It's a great territory. The problem is it's 2 hours in each direction to get to the next territory. You can't scale by sprawling. You're going to have to scale in other ways. And so when we start talking about what that looks like, these are conversations that we're going to have before we actually get to a point where we've got a client at signing days. We're going to talk about, hey, if you scale, here's some issues you may run into. The other thing is we're going to try to do that background on it to make sure that not only is somebody willing to sell you a territory there, we're going to make sure it's viable as well. And for the most part, most franchisors that are reputable, and a big reason that I would recommend that people go with a franchise consultant is we spend a lot of time with these franchisors, literally 100 or more a month, talking to franchisors. There's usually a week with 60 and then 10 a week on top of that. So you're talking about roughly 100 franchisors a month that we're building relationships with. And the reason we do that is we want to make sure they're reputable. We want to make sure that they are making sure that their territories are viable, and that if somebody has a failing territory, they're making amends to try to fix it. I mean, I've worked with franchisors that go out and they'd have somebody and then all of a sudden they had a death in the family 2 weeks before they opened, and they were able to work with them and say, okay, well, you had a death in the family, you're going to have to move across the country. So obviously you're not going to be able to open this franchise here. We'll work with you, and there's a territory available where you're going. Why don't we transfer over there? Or we'll take back the territory. We'll try to do whatever we can. We'll develop it out. We understand. Those are the kind of franchisors you want to work with. The ones that want to make sure, hey, we're not just taking your money because you got a checkbook and a heartbeat. Anyway, just a few things to think about that are common things that franchisees bring up and say, hey, I wish I'd had this conversation before I actually signed my agreement. We find out about it and have to deal with it the hard way. But most of the time you overcome that, but you really kind of want to know what you're getting into, especially on that. What does support really look like on the franchisor side? All right. If you want to have a deeper conversation, please give me a call. I'm always available.